But look at that, it has given Kagawa top pair.
Oh, both players check, so we go to the river. And it is a 10 of diamonds, action on Tom Dwan. Will he fire here?
Surprising he let him off on the turn. If he wants to build this pot, this is the last chance he's going to get.
Well, he makes a small bet, 3,000.
Call.
And is quickly called by Masa. Shows his two pair. And Masa lets his hand go. So
Blinds up, guys.
Tom Dwan getting creative, and it paid off that time.
500,000 of those.
Welcome to the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia, where the world's best poker players and a few nervous challengers have all arrived for the 2010 Aussie Millions Poker Championship. And this is where all the action happens.
Blinds are up to 500, 1,000. Button on Dan Shak. Action on Andrew Feldman. And he looks down at a Queen-8 offsuit and decides not to play. Folds around to Shak, who looks down at pocket jacks. And I'm sure we'll count out a raise.
Raise.
Makes it 3,000, but look at this. Tom Dwan has picked up aces.
Well, this is where he may reap the benefit of being so creative with small cards. No one is going to read him for a monster like bullets.
Especially if he just flat calls before the flop there, so trying to conceal his hand. No re-raise. Here comes the flop. A 10-8, 3 flop, 2 hearts. So that could mean a lot of trouble for Dan Shak.
Dwan check to him, and Shak has put in 6,000.
Now, will Tom Dwan continue to conceal his hand, or will he try and get his chips in? He's been called by the clock, 10 seconds.
5.
Doesn't have long, but he raises to 16,000. He wants it in now. Will Shak take the bait? And he moves all in, so Tom Dwan's trap has worked. And Dwan quickly calls. And of course, he's miles ahead.
Shak sees the bad news.
All in call.
He's drawing very, very thin, running cards for a straight, or he needs to hit that jack. Fourth street is a harmless 4 of spades, so no straight draws now. It has to be a jack for Shak.
The river, a 9 of spades, so Tom Dwan, well, he doubles up through Dan Shak.
Shak still very much in contention, got plenty of chips behind. It's a blow, but doesn't put him on the canvas.
I'm here with Richard Longhurst, Chief Operating Officer of Crown Casino. Richard, you've been an integral part of the success of the Aussie Millions. Now, for those who don't know, where did it all start? How did the tournament begin?
It used to be a fairly small tournament here at Crown, relatively unknown. We were happy to get 100 people, and what we saw was a pretty big vision of opportunity with the increase in television poker, online poker. We wanted to be part of that experience, and it really was Keith Sloan that came up with the vision. And from that, we then said, well, how do we go and get a $5 million tournament, and what do we actually call it, and how do we go really push hard internationally? And from that, we had this fairly lengthy journey, and every year we continued to build. We branded it the Aussie Millions. It used to be called the Crown Australasian Poker Championship, which is a mouthful. We like the Aussie Millions. That name is stuck. That's resonated with people. We want it to be one of the biggest poker tournaments in the world. And the things that Crown does well is around excellent quality service to top-end customers. We want to extend that to the poker guys.
The audience up in the gods, staring down at the poker gods. Button is on Phil Ivey, and the action is around to Andrew Feldman, the young Englishman. Doesn't even want to look at the dealer as he passes that trash back to Phil Ivey. Has ace-10 and has raised it. He gets an immediate call from Shak, who has the snowmen, and Tom Dwan getting a decent price to make it 3 in the middle. And we know he can play Gus Hanssen style with any 2 cards.
Dan Shak slightly ahead. The flop comes 10-8-4. And look at that. Dan Shak flops another set. This time a set of 8s.
And top pair for both Ivey and Dwan. Dwan is in a whole heap of hurt here, but he's the one who comes out firing.
Well, he wants to know where he's at, so he bets 7,000. Round to Ivey. He's got top pair, top kicker in the face of a bet, and he's not going to slow play it. He makes a raise to 24,000, and Dan Shak sitting there with a monster.
Smooth call here, probably the way to go.
He might feel a bit insecure. He's probably got the 2 most feared poker players on the planet on either side of him.
But he also has a set. It should allow.
No, he's not going to waste any time. Look at the look from Phil Ivey as Dan Shak announces all in. Dwan quickly folds. Phil Ivey asking the dealer to start the clock only after Dan Shak's chips are counted. He doesn't want his 30 seconds being impeded by a count. This structure, of course, 60-minute levels. All the players have only 30 seconds to act. They have 2-time extension buttons. And Phil Ivey has a decision to make here.
Top pair, top kicker. But has Dan Shak over-egged the pudding? Part of poker is getting the maximum from your winning hands. And he may push this one too far.
And Phil Ivey considering throwing his time button in, but instead he makes a fold, and he makes a great fold, and that's why he's the best player in the world.
The button is on Daniel Shak. So Andrew Feldman from England, first to get involved. He folds. Jordanou folds. Ivey's out of it, so we're already round to Shak on the button. He's got King 5 offsuit. And he leaves it to the blinds. Tom Dwan has a rather unpromising 7-2 in clubs.
And of course he raises with it.
And Masa Kagawa, the shipping magnate, makes the call. He's in position.
The flop is King 9-8, so Masa flops top 2 pair. Hasn't worked out really for Dwan here. He's hoping to get a favourable flop. He checks. Perhaps trying to get a read on Masa so he can raise him. No, instead, Masa bets and Dwan gets away from it.
Oh, and a bit unlucky to walk into a Godzilla of a hand in front of the Japanese contender.
For the last 8 years, Melbourne has been rated as one of the top 3 most livable cities in the world. And it's not hard to see why, as you stroll through the laneways and parks that are a feature of this exciting, sophisticated metropolis.
I just love Australia. I love Melbourne. And, you know, I really wouldn't get on a plane for 14 hours unless I was going to a place that I was going to have a good time at.
For European visitors fleeing the northern winter, Melbourne in January is a welcome escape. Warm sun, beautiful beaches, and some of the most exciting and vibrant nightlife in the world are just some of the attractions.
The food is great, the people are nice. I don't know, it's not so bad when you get knocked out here.
Add in premium world sporting events like the Australian Open, some of the best shopping anywhere in the world, and you have all the ingredients for a truly memorable trip. The button is on Phil Ivey. Blinds are 500, 1,000. And the action is on Andrew Feldman. He takes a look and finds pocket fives and folds, so clearly a strategy being employed by Andrew Feldman, keeping it pretty tight at this stage. Billy Jordanou folds 10-6 of diamonds. Phil Ivey will raise on the button with Queen-Jack offsuit.
Quite surprised by Feldman folding the fives. He's shown a real reluctance to get involved.
Dan Shak calling from the small blind with ace-6 offsuit, and Tom Dwan slightly ahead with ace-7 offsuit in the big blind. Lets it go.
Nothing going to plan here. Two players will see the flop, and it comes down deuce 3-3.
Shak checks. Now Ivey with position. He bets. Makes it 5,000. And look at this. Shak calls, doesn't believe him. The turn, a 3 of clubs. Shak checks. Phil Ivey checks this time. And the river is a jack of clubs. So Phil Ivey spiking the river. Shak now may well believe he's ahead, especially when Phil Ivey checked the turn, and he will bet 7,000. So he thinks he's ahead here, and Phil Ivey just takes a glance at Shak and raises to 17,000.
Phil with the boat. Threes full of jacks.
And Shak looks like he's not convinced.
Well, he can only beat a total bluff. He's played with Ivey often enough to know that that's a possibility.
10 seconds.
And the clock has been called.
Like a referee counting out a
5,
boxer.
3, 2.
And Dan Shak has picked the time button, thrown it in the middle. That gives him another 30 seconds. He really doesn't want to let this hand go. And there's ace high. He calls. So Phil Ivey shows him. And Dan Shak is not happy. Oh, Dan Shak. Well, his instincts were right. He was ahead in the hand, but by not raising, he allowed Phil Ivey in. And of course, Phil caught the river and bet right at him.
I heard that initially you hadn't even planned to come to this tournament. You won your way in via a satellite.
It's sort of a long story. I was in New York lonely over Christmas. It was a Saturday night. I spent 2 years here, and my day job is midnight till 6 in the morning, and I just said,
You're a trader, right?
I'm a hedge fund manager, and I said I just can't do one more year of working midnight to 6 a.m. And luckily enough, I was on full tilt, and I played the satellite and won my way in. And I just said it was karma that I had to come here. I worked out a better sleep schedule. I've been sleeping from 7 to midnight, working from midnight till 6, and then sleeping from 7 till noon. So I've gotten a good schedule where my work has been going well and my poker. So I'm very happy I came, obviously.
Button on Daniel Shak. Dwan the small blind. Masa the big blind, and it's Andrew Feldman. Playing a very conservative game, folding again. Billy Jordanou has the computer hand and no interest in playing. Rags for Ivey in the cutoff. And not much better for Shak on the button, but he has position, so makes the call. Now Dwan, he's in a raising mood. What will he do with ace-10?
Well, the thing that makes Dwan quite an exceptional player is he does unconventional things.